This is the infield master planning task force. It is Monday, November 28th, 2022. It's 6:01 and I'm David Frack. I am the co-chair or a co-chair of this group. Lindsay is supposed to be lead chair tonight, but until she comes, I will take over those duties. Members present from my left, starting with Sealy.
Celia Alfiero,
Bill Vermeer, Brad Rich,
Bridget Labrie.
And on Zoom,
Ashley Wood.
okay, also in attendance on Zoom are Brandy Saxon. Hi, Brandy.
Hello.
Whitney Banker, our minutes clerk, and Rob Taylor, Land Use and Community Development Administrator. Anybody have anything to add or change on the agenda? Okay. Next, we'll do minutes from our previous meeting. Does anyone have any comments, questions, or suggestions? Bill, you good?
good.
Ashley, good?
Good.
And in that case, I will ask you to make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Are you, sorry, who are you talking to? Because I cannot see you guys
I'm
at all right
talking to
now.
you.
Okay, well, I make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, minutes are accepted as written. New business. We have several items. One is a discussion of how we're gonna run the presentation to the planning board. Discussion of our recommendations for membership. You know what I forgot from this? Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. Next item on the agenda is review of the latest round of edits. So let's start with that.
I'm missing something. I didn't see an agenda.
Yeah, there was one that came out.
I sent the main body of this out on,
Sorry.
it's either Friday
I'm here for
or
it.
Saturday.
So when I was going through the plan, I could not find the copy that was in magazine format that included. Am I blind? Was it on the Leeds website?
No,
Okay.
the latest round of revisions was just a PDF,
Okay.
which I sent the link for.
Yep, and it had Brandy highlighted in yellow the changes.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
So I did not have any changes to that. The only thing I think we talked about was on the quotes on each section, we were gonna do, there's an open quote, we were gonna do an ending quote was the only thing I saw.
I can't remember what we talked about
I
on the
think that's
quotes.
what we said.
They're supposed to all have closing quotes. If you caught one that I missed, just let me know which one it is.
Okay,
Okay, I know I was the one that brought it up, and I can't recall the decision, but that's what Brandy recommended. So I have some, not issues, but things I'd like to talk about. At our last meeting, Brandy assigned or asked that somebody write credits, and I took a stab at that. Rob and I had a discussion in which probably 20 or 30 people were named with their titles. Clearly, there was not enough space for that, so I edited it down. And what you see on page 3 is what I came up with. Brandy, I was thinking of this as more of a message from the planning board, which would put the last arrow or last bullet, not as a bullet, but as sort of a signature. What would you advise on that, and how does the rest of the board feel about that?
If, I know you had, what you sent me, was more of a letter format. I did try to compress a bit to get it to fit into that, space. Alternatively, it could rearrange the imagery on the page and give you more room for, a fuller page for the credits. And I do think we need to keep the 2 paragraphs. I looked at trying to shrink that down too on how to use the online document, but I think that kind of
Mhm.
needs to be there too. But we obviously have 3 large photos, and so there's some room to move things around.
So does anybody want to change it the way Brandy has it now, or should we move things around a little bit and make it more of what my original
Looks good to me.
Yeah,
concept was, which is not necessarily the concept that we have to stick with?
I think we're good. Mention the names, people want more information, they can talk to the person.
Brad?
yeah,
Good?
agreed.
Bridget, good?
Yep.
Lily, good?
Yeah.
Ashley, good? Then no changes there. On the next page,
259.
which is page 5. And let's see, in the community engagement, it should be Enfield Markets. Is that right, Bridget?
Yeah. We do Enfield markets and make it thorough since they were there.
And I would also suggest that it should be visioning workshops.
Mhm.
And let's see, Brandy added that.
What page you on?
Page 5 of the PDF.
Okay, there were some yellow marks on 4 as well. Or no, page 5, okay. I'm with you now, I think.
Okay,
And,
So-
and forgive me, David, close quotes on page 3 on the quote.
Yep.
okay.
Page 4.
You know, everybody jump in. Right now, I'm only going over the.
Okay, my
the-
apologies.
The things that I spotted, and if I skip over something that you or anyone else has spotted, feel free to jump in and cut me off. Okay,
Can what was the visioning change? Was it visioning?
Workshops, we're just making it plural.
Just want to make sure I got it right.
is that there? That's church, okay. Under planning process, 3rd line down, responding to a question of the week. We had several of them, and I would like to maybe change it to offering input online, responding to a series of questions of the week. Does everybody think that's a good change? And then the final line of that paragraph should be Enfield Markets. See the next page. Okay, the next page, Brandy added Village Vitality to the quote because we thought that was, actually, that's one page even further down. That's on page 7, page 8.
Add close quotes there too.
Mhm.
On page, I think it's 10 or no, I get no, it's 9. Brandy added, something to the maintains, which is a request that we had made.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna embarrass myself here. Maybe not. I think many years ago, in probably 8th grade, when we were diagramming sentences, Sealy remembers that. I think I was taught that if you have a singular subject, then the verb is plural. So in this case, let me zoom in. It says the series of maps follows, and if my memory is correct, and I'm not saying that it is, the subject of the sentence is maps, therefore the verb should be
David?
singular. Yeah,
I don't know if you don't realize your video is not on, and so I am not following where you are.
oh, okay,
What page are you
okay, I am on, it looks like page 11 of the PDF, under natural constraint.
on?
And I'm in the 3rd paragraph, first line.
I think that's page 12.
Page 11.
So page 12
Oh,
of
page 12, I'm
of the
sorry.
document.
Okay, page 12.
I'm sorry.
All right.
So 3rd paragraph, should it be maps follow or maps follows? And maybe that's
But the
something.
noun here
Correct
is
as
series,
is.
David.
Yeah.
What's that?
You didn't learn how to diagram the sentence correctly. The noun is series.
Is it?
Yes, of maps is a prepositional phrase. Mrs. Hall taught me how to diagram sentences very thoroughly.
I mean, I might have cut one of them out.
I stand corrected, young lady.
I may be the end of the generations that learned how to diagram sentences. I don't know.
I mean,
Okay.
I would even suggest we could take the S off of follows, and that would still work, but. just saying.
Well, that's what I was suggesting was.
Either way, I think it would work, but yeah. I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
series is one of those weird words, right? Is it singular or is it plural?
A series is, that's a good question. I think it's singular.
I think it is singular too.
Okay. And, you know, I guess we had 3 other people proofreading it and they all disagreed with me, so
Okay.
it won't be the first time. Let's see, scrolling down.
Oh,
You got something,
I just,
Bridget?
going backwards, I realized I said that there was a typo in the credits. That first, second line, so the 2022 master plan is the result of the efforts. It says PF, I believe it's supposed to be of the input from Countless Enfield.
What page you want?
So I think
Bridget?
I went back up to page
Oh,
3
you're
on the
back to
credits,
credits.
because I had noticed a typo. in there,
Okay.
basically.
Yeah, I
was-
haven't. I was looking at for spelling errors, but I actually didn't run the spell checker, so I obviously didn't see that one from the copy and paste. So we'll fix that one.
And zoom in. That's how it's-
Okay, on page 20, 3rd paragraph, and my understanding was that the Route 4 district was created in 2013, not revised, and Brandy, you did the work, so I will,
I guess it was
Before we
created.
do.
I guess there was. I'm trying to remember what was there before. It might have been. Oh, I don't remember how far out there. One of your districts went out there, but I don't think it had its own separate one. So
And
We can
and
do
it
that.
certainly didn't have all the form-based stuff on it.
Right.
So, does the group wanna suggest the change to created? From substantially revised?
Yes, it was created in 2013. There was nothing before that, right?
If it's something else,
What was it called?
does it matter? I mean, it had very different regs.
What page, what do you,
I'm on page 20. Third paragraph.
Yeah, I'm okay with created.
okay with that too?
Okay. You're okay with the change or keeping it as is?
What do you wanna change it to?
I wanted to change to created from substantially revised.
That, is that oh, that's just the sewer?
No,
Or the
that,
tip.
no, that's the Route 4 district.
Oh, I see. You know, I don't know the answer, if that was created, I know a if district was created, but I remember, you know, creating or doing the Route 4 by itself, but I could have missed that.
No, I think Brandy did the work.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
Brandy.
the form-based district was a new district. I think that some of it was rural residential, like R1, and some of it was community business. I think that went out further, so I think it is a new district entirely. So we should change it to created.
Agree.
Or extended. Community business,
No, it's not community business. It's its own
Route 4.
district.
Route 4.
okay,
Um,
I'll go for whatever you want.
on page 22. And this is another one that's probably showing my age versus anybody else's. The last two lines or three lines. The envisioned future use of the planning areas and neighborhoods is described, and I'm gonna question whether it should be are described.
Oh.
Because
Which page are you on?
I'm on 22.
In which paragraph?
It's the middle column, last 3 or 4 lines.
Okay.
I change it to R.
I think it's is.
Use
Well,
is,
Yeah, I think in this scenario.
Makes more sense.
Yeah. That one can read either way.
Either way. Bill, Brad,
I think is correct, because the subject is envision future use. That's singular.
use. Yeah, okay, you convinced me.
Yep.
Moving down. No, general comment, Brandy, is that the blue underlines are hard to see, the ones that indicate a hyperlink.
I
you bold
I
them?
can make the line thicker.
Yeah,
Which page is that on?
pretty much wherever they appear.
So there's one under,
Leave it all on your.
yeah, at the top of that same paragraph that we were just talking about, the future land use map.
Yeah, you can barely see it
Yeah, has a thing.
right here. Yeah, that's really light.
It's mostly that the line is really fine. I can thicken up the line. It's the same actually dark blue as the other text, but it's just a really fine line.
Yeah,
Yeah,
needs,
it-
needs to be
it's barely
bolder.
visible. I totally missed it until I put my pointer on it. Then the hot link popped up.
Let's see.
I mean, to bring out the blue lines, that's. Is that what you
Yeah,
want to bring them
Yeah,
out better?
to
Yeah,
make them thicker.
yeah.
On page 39. Middle column. Third line of the first full paragraph. Should there be a comma after operation? No, she says. Okay.
Which,
At peak operation,
Ah.
around 1900, it employed more than 300 people. And my suggestion is that around 1900 is what needs to be separated by commas.
yeah, I could see that. Cause you don't need it in there and you could still have the sentence.
Say that again so Brandy can hear, and so I can hear.
I think, cause you could take that out, like you said, around 1900, and you could still have, that's kind of how I usually look at it, where
Yeah.
you take that out, you could still have a sentence without that, so you'd break it. Comma on either side.
People agreed?
But I can't say that I'm at all an English major or professional at this. I was gonna teach elementary school, we wouldn't get into this.
I used to write for spoken word, in which you did a lot of these comma things.
Yeah.
And I had not really lost that habit. On the next page, page 40. And this is my own, just looking at it. I thought having the text start in the middle column at the bottom just kind of looked awkward, but that's.
What page are you on? Sorry, David?
I'm sorry,
40.
page 40. I just thought,
Okay.
I mean, from a design point of view, I'm sure you have your reasons, and I just wanted to highlight it for the group, and if anybody agrees, that's fine, and if they don't agree, that's also good. Oh, I just found lack of closed quote on the next page.
And the one following it.
And the one following.
Don't see it on most.
Is that quote thing a design element? It seems like it is.
Yep.
I've seen that in other places that it doesn't have closed quotes because of the way it is. So I was just wondering.
Well, I actually think that I went through and did this and then I did not hit save because I had close quotes on all of these not that long ago. So I now see that they're all not there again. Well, they're kind of they're hit and miss. So I was going to put a close quote. I mean, you can do it either way. But I had a mixture. So I think the preference was to put a close quote at the end of the thing.
Yeah, I'm just looking for consistency.
Right.
Let's see.
Brandy, was there a reason that it made more sense to move that paragraph over? Were we looking to put anything else there?
No, it was just white space in the template.
Okay.
We're going to end up with, if we move that paragraph over, we'll end up with white space at the other end.
Yeah.
That's why I was wondering if it would mess it up.
Yeah.
I recognize that it's a question of where do you put the white space, and,
Yeah,
yeah, whatever.
so if you prefer it, I can shift it around so it's on the other page.
I don't,
That make any difference to me.
rest of the group wanna voice an opinion? And leave it.
Yeah,
I have one more comment, which I have to go back. On page, here we are. On page 5.
Page 5.
Page 5, I went backwards.
Why? That's me
The,
now.
the thing, the page number and the thing that says Enfield Master Plan is literally lost in the weeds.
Yeah, that photo is a problem. The text doesn't work in black either.
Can you try like a black outline or maybe put a rectangle that's semi-transparent behind it?
Yeah, I think the thing to probably do is to swap the photo out.
wait, with the,
As you can see it up here.
just the writing? The
Yeah.
Enfield
Yeah, I
it
can
gets
Master
just
lost,
Plan?
it gets
switch the
lost.
two photos from the two corners. So basically just swap the photos.
Well, that's a good fix. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, why not? That's it for me for the main body. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add on the main body of the plan? People ready to move on to the appendices?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. I guess I have a couple of questions. Like on the first page, which is page 60. Or page 1 of 14, depending on how you want to look at it. What does that white space in the pie graph represent?
Those are the no responses. So all of the pie charts are set up that way. So people didn't have to answer questions on the survey. So that's your skip rate, basically.
Can we have the appendices on screen because we don't have a copy of
We
it?
ran
You
out
don't
here.
have it.
You don't have them.
Tonight.
No,
59.
Stop this,
Okay,
59.
how come I'm the only one that has it?
Because I emailed it to you and Robin Lindsay, like at noon.
And we all thought everybody else was gonna distribute them, I guess.
Let me see if I can share.
Okay,
Email it to me, but now, Rob. She's gonna share, and she does.
Okay, do you have it up on the screen now?
yep,
So this is the complete survey report. You've seen most of these pages before. Somehow in the formatting and moving things around, I at some point, I think overwrote land use and economic development. So I had to recreate those. They were there at one point, and then I think when we rearranged the chapters, they got disconnected and lost somehow. So those are all in there now. So that's the full report.
okay. So does anybody other than me feel a need to identify what those white spaces in the pie graphs are no responses? I stand alone.
It's hard to see from here, but I think
Yeah.
that it should be identified.
Yeah.
It's just gonna get questioned if we don't put it in.
do you want to do it on every one, or you wanna just do it on the first one?
I think do them all.
So the,
People agree?
so the blank space is no responses.
Yeah, I mean, you could say no response on the first one and then just do NRs for some of those. Some of those slices are kind of small. So that applies to all the pie graphs.
Send it to me.
Okay, my next question, Brandy, is on the spread. That's page 66. Or 66 and 67.
Mm-hmm.
Does the color key on the top bar graph relate to the colors on the other bar graphs?
No, that's
below?
just, that key is just for that chart.
Okay, so
The
what did
colors on the other one, I've sort of done that consistently throughout when we have one of these percentages type of questions. Things that got more than 50% get the bright green, and then the chunk that's that's more than 25 to 50 get the light gray, and then if it's 20, below 25, those are black, and then none of the above they're blue. So it's the same format for all of them, but it's just sort of a way of highlighting out the ones that have sort of the strongest agreement in one direction or the other.
Okay, could you identify that somewhere? I think you've got some room where you can squeeze that in, on the right-hand side, bottom, below that,
Mhm.
second paragraph. I guess that applies to all of them. But again, you explain the key once and people should know. And let's see, for the benefit of all you guys on the committee task force, I asked Brandy to take the timeline that I created for the November 13 meeting and throw that in somewhere, just so people could get an idea of what we did and when we did it. And when somebody says, I didn't know what was going on, we can point to it.
Mhm.
So this is what Brandy did at the very end. And, if you want to keep it, fine. If you want to take it out, consider it unnecessary. I shall not be offended.
I say keep it.
Keep it.
More places we can
All right.
point, better.
Please keep it.
Oh, next guy, do the next one.
What's that?
This would be a good reference for the next time we do this in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just change the date
Right.
for next year.
Next year, yeah.
So that kind of brings us to the end of the appendix. Does anybody else have any more comments on the draft?
Looks good.
Nice piece of work.
So what I'll do is I'll go through and make those final edits, and then I will update the magazine version and send you updated files. My one question to you is the planning board going to take this up and deal with it in 2022, or should we go ahead and change all the dates to 2023?
It's tight, and that's the next item on our agenda. We're gonna talk about what we want to do. Why do I have long agenda? Let me go back and find tonight's agenda. So what we're gonna talk about is, do we think we're ready to take it to the planning board?
Planning board meeting is the 14th,
14th?
is that right?
Let me look on the calendar.
14th, 28th.
14th and 28th. If we take it to the planning board on the 14th, I would think that would give us enough time to warn it, assuming that there's no major changes, for the 28th, and then hopefully adopt it on the 28th. Do we think we're ready?
I think we're ready and I'm in favor of just getting it done.
I think logistically, the 14th coming up, the next meeting, you guys are busy. That's gonna be a lot of stuff. There's 3 hearings.
Oh, is there really?
Yes, plus we're still pounding out what you guys want to put forward for zoning amendments.
There's 3 land use hearings?
Yes.
Can
So
one, can one of
28th?
those, can one of those move to the 28th?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, those are all warned hearings. Reason for that is we didn't have a meeting last week. The people coming in like,
Yeah.
I can give you the next one. So, I think the 28th actually would be a good day because you're not gonna have a lot of stuff on that day. You know what I mean?
28th to present to the board.
For the planning board to take this up as an adoption.
But we'll probably miss planning board members on the 28th too,
You think so?
holiday week.
Well,
I don't know.
Are
The
you-
Official holidays is obviously the 25th is a Sunday. People will get the Monday off. I doubt a lot of people. I don't know.
I don't know.
Some people take that whole week. I know you're saying.
Well, it sounds like, I mean, I don't think you can do it on the 14th. We've got 3 hearings. That's too much.
I think
I
you're
like
right,
the
Brad.
28th. But then the next one in January 11th. That's gonna be your official first hearing for the zoning changes amendments. Have to have it that day. Because you have to have your first hearing by the 12th of January. So we'll
We
have
have
to
to
have
have
our
it on
first
the
hearing.
11th.
28th is the only option.
No, but
Well, you could put it off even further if you wanted to, but
Well,
you've got to present to the planning board and then the hearing, so.
do we think that the hearing on the zoning amendments is gonna raise a lot of controversy?
there's a lot to, I mean, on January 11th. It may not be, I don't know, I mean, we just have a lot of stuff now. And we add all of our stuff, plus if the Historic Heritage Commission comes in with theirs, conservation is now coming in. Of course, we'll have the floodplain stuff that we haven't really talked about, but it's gonna be part of
Yeah, but
the hearing.
floodplain stuff, I think is going to be this is what the state is telling us to do. We really can't deviate from it.
Yep.
The historical thing, I think is gonna go the way, or I
don't
would
think
hope,
they're gonna- You mean the Heritage Commission
The her-
stuff?
yeah.
That, I don't think they're gonna do it. She didn't come in.
That should, because she figured that it's actually the planning board that needs to talk about it, not the select board. Talking about Linda
Is
Jones?
that what, yeah?
Yep.
Is that what she said?
Yep.
Huh,
Cause the last conversation that I had with Linda was that they were just gonna, put the whole thing off until,
thought
Next
that was
year.
gonna happen.
That's what I heard for CLG, but not for the historic district.
like I said, I thought
Well-
it was talking historic district.
It really doesn't matter because the question on the table right now is, can we do it on the 14th of December? Or do we need to wait till the 28th? That's the question. And there's no way we can do it on the 14th. We've got 3 hearings.
So,
Well, okay, so let me just tell you that one of the hearings of the 3 is a voluntary lot merger that you've already talked to Susan Brown about.
all right,
That should
that's-
take you
that-
5 seconds.
10 minutes at the
Yes.
most.
The other
We
two,
ever
one
had
is a site
hearing
plan.
that's gone 5 or 10 minutes?
I know.
No,
That's
Now,
what
do you think it,
I'm being optimistic.
do you think it needs to be at 2 meetings? You have to have a discussion and then a hearing? Is it planning board discusses whether we take it up for a formal hearing at the next meeting? Is that what? you want?
I think that's the way it should go.
So at that rate, you could have a very brief discussion on the 14th
Yeah.
about whether you bring it up on the 28th or to push it off till January 25th, which is the next meeting after the 11th.
Can you send it ahead and just ask planning board members to come? Having reviewed the draft and
Of course, we
prepared to
could
have
do
a.
that. Brief discussion.
And they've all seen drafts too
Yeah.
at this point.
Brandy, how hard is it to change that date?
Well, it's not, but if you didn't think you were going to hit the 2022 for adoption, then it would make sense to change it now. And I
Right.
actually think you're unlikely to hit 2022 for adoption, given what you just laid out.
Okay, so let's go with your gut feeling, Brandy. Make it 2023.
Yeah,
And if perchance we get it, on the 28th, then we'll ask you to do one final change.
Yeah, I
Okay.
suspect the planning board will want a little more time than just, 5 minutes at one meeting and then hearing and then vote. I suspect they'll want to mull it a bit. So,
You're probably right about that. But I'm being eternally optimistic.
optimistic. So we can change it, I'll change it over in this version.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
do it to
then,
23 and
yep.
if things change, they change.
they will
And I
pop
know
it back.
How many planning board members? You got 3
Well, I know Tim and Karen have spent a lot of time going through the plan, so we've got all their changes, but to Brandy's point, we'll give them an opportunity to mull it over. I mean,
Yeah,
we'll see what happens on the 14th. We'll talk
Mhm.
about it. If we can do it, great. If not,
yeah, I mean, that's kind of been what I've been saying for the last couple of months. If we can get it done in 2022, I would love it.
me too.
If we don't, it spills over to January of 23.
Brandy's gonna send tonight's revisions. And I will immediately, if you're good with it, send it to planning board
I'm good with
I'm
it.
good with it.
I'm good.
for plenty of time for them.
Okay,
Send it off.
everybody else good with it?
2 weeks from day after tomorrow to their next meeting.
Is it possible to send the magazine, view, format versus PDF?
Brandy?
Yeah, I'll do, as soon as I make the edits, there's an order of operation, make edits, make PDF, make web version. So with the one then the next and the next. I'll send you the both the PDF and the link for the web thing. It probably won't happen tomorrow, but I should be able to do it Wednesday or Thursday and get that back turned around to you, because that was just a few things. Probably can do it on Wednesday.
Okay, and I think you told me that we can download the web version from your link and then put it up on Enfield Leaps.
Yeah, we can get it onto Enfield Leaps. Probably you have someone who's sort of a web designer person for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably at some point we should get a connection set up so she right and I can speak, and I can get those files over and explain how they have to be put up.
Okay, I will make that introduction and I will make that happen hopefully tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, so you'll have all that info for when you are ready to
Yep.
put it up live on our website. Or should we actually put it up live on our website because we haven't really adopted it yet?
Well,
And
we'll
it's
still
not-
have the draft. I mean, I'll still make it, although you're right, the online version just basically says draft on the front page. I can put draft in the header, I think maybe on the online version. I have to look at that.
Okay,
limited editing capabilities there.
why don't you figure out what can and can't be done and touch base with me when you figure it out,
Okay,
You wanna put it
and we'll decide. What?
before, you wanna put it up on there before? It's,
That's what I'm questioning, if we should do that or not. Cause it's gonna say 2023. You say no.
I say just wait until it's finalized and adopted,
Yeah, we just want something to send to the planning board.
cause that way you can do a push when it's adopted.
Yeah,
And I
okay,
wouldn't, cause people will, if
Yeah.
anything changes. And we might as well wait to,
okay, so
Publish it.
we will wait to put it on our website. So don't worry about that.
we should still have the conversation at some point, so we know how to get the files up and make sure that it's going to work. I don't see why it won't, but we should definitely have the
Okay,
conversation.
I'll set that cross
Mhm.
communication up tomorrow.
Great.
And the person is Barbara Jones. Yeah, I'll get you her contact
Good.
info.
And Brandy, I have one little logistical thing. This may be maybe easy. You're gonna have to, I guess, estimate how much more work you need to do before the end of the year, but we need to get you the
Final
final
bill.
payment. Because
Okay,
it's encumbered
End of the year.
funds. Yes, and we can't
okay,
encumber again. You can't double encumber. So the
Okay.
money that we have available to pay you would basically go away by the end of the year. So we'll
Okay,
need to,
I haven't done my November or
December
I
1.
obviously haven't done November bookkeeping yet because it is still November, but that's coming right up towards the end of the week. And I'll see where we are, and then I'll probably just call you, Rob, and we'll sort of
Okay.
an estimate going forward, and then I can roll that into the bill that I send out in early December.
Yes, thank you.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, so we will go to the planning board on the 14th.
It'll be a brief,
It'll be
Discussion
a
about
brief,
what's
and
the
then we'll
next
see
step.
where it goes.
Yeah.
So, going forward, next year, we want to do 5 chapters. All 5 chapters have, Brandy, you can stay and listen to this discussion if you'd like. You're
Well, I
certainly welcome
actually,
to
the reason
participate.
the reason I'm remote again is I do have another meeting to jump onto. So
Okay,
I am going to go. So thank you guys. And I will be in touch with your final draft, hopefully very soon.
awesome. Thanks,
Okay.
not
Brandon.
hopefully, final draft.
Yeah,
There's
Lock
always
it-
lots of
lock it
edits. There's
down.
always edits before the last one, before it's adopted. Okay. Have a good night, all.
All right,
You too.
thank you.
You too, thank
Bye.
you.
Dave, can you go over the chapters again, slowly, because I have a question for each one.
Okay,
It's,
the chapters that we're gonna do for next year.
yes,
Okay, we are going to do energy
yes. Is there a energy committee / commission?
committee.
Committee, there is.
Yes.
Okay, next.
Next is the Conservation Commission.
Okay, we know that answer.
Next is the Heritage Commission or
And
committee.
there's a committee, right?
It's a
Okay.
committee.
It's a committee.
Yeah, recreation.
Recreation,
Yeah, and there's definitely that.
that's
and
a
there's
commission,
definitely
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and then facilities, town facilities. Or I think we'll expand it to facilities and services.
Is
'cause,
there a group of people working on that?
there was, and I believe they're still in existence.
So, I mean, obviously, right? Gotta have those people.
How do we want to integrate them into our activity?
So wasn't there a first discussion though on whether or not everybody was going to be staying on the task force or whether they would be
Well, I'm
recruiting
thinking
for new
that
members?
most of us would roll off and get the experts on the committee.
I'm thinking
No.
not.
Why?
I think there should be a little bit of cross-fertilization.
Definitely, but my suspicion is that the people who are on these committees have their particular focus and their particular expertise. And you know, are people on the recreation committee really concerned with anything else?
I can tell you, they could probably look at and be involved in facilities. It's gonna be a time thing, I think, is the bigger part. So, like you said, they have their interests and their expertise, but also if this continues every other week, basically, are they gonna have that time to add in
Yeah, I don't know.
for a
Well,
meeting?
or do we? I mean.
Or do-
Same
yeah.
question, right?
Or do we want, yeah,
So,
Right.
but I think that if, I would be willing to bet, although Bridget, you know these people, better than I do, but I would imagine they're gonna be very into finally getting, you know, some critical mass in terms of, working on these chapters and getting it into a plan.
Yeah, I would say, and I would suggest what we talked about doing even with this at one point, that maybe it's the first meeting or maybe it's the second meeting, you know, whatever, for each chapter, invite the committee or commission to be at the meeting with the master task force, talk about it. That way you can kind of go through what do we need for information, because it was something that I started talking about with recreation as far as, you know, pulling numbers and hopefully that will improve, as time and things have changed, but you know, I would say they might be interested in coming to one or two meetings around the chapters. And that might be really helpful because they'll have feedback and they become ambassadors
So
to,
you look at it as more as, support personnel and ambassadors but not being on the task force itself.
well, I honestly thought that we had originally talked about looking at who wanted to continue and then filling gaps. And that
Yeah.
right there might, if we did that and we talk about what the next 5 chapters are, that right there might pull certain people's attention from those committees, commissions wanting to do this work too. I don't know, but maybe.
You know, maybe we throw out a feeler to these 5 different committees and ask them, you know, we kind of tell them that the minimum requirement is they come to 2 or 3 meetings that deal specifically with their area of interest and expertise. But we would sure like it if you're willing to put in the time, for one or more of your committee members to become members of the task force.
I might want to add that I think most of these committees need a little education
Yeah,
about what a master plan is.
Yep.
For these areas. And they really should look at other master plans that have done and what's been done, you know,
Yeah.
for heritage, and read some of them. And,
Yeah.
you know, so they get an idea, because I don't think they have a clue.
well, I
So-
think that was a big thing that we all had to talk about a few times and we've all probably had to educate people on multiple times is what master planning is, right? It's not our opinions and what we want.
Right.
So they can come in here with an interest, but they can't walk in here with an agenda necessarily because it's not about what they only,
Right.
what they want. It's about what the
Right.
community wants.
You think,
So if they
that's a
can walk
concern,
in-
you think?
I
No,
think she's on
we
something.
just,
Yeah.
it's what
Different.
Stevie said, it's just educating them. I don't know
Right.
if it's a concern as much as sharing the whole picture of, we know that you're obviously interested in this. Here's what a master plan is.
This committee was,
Yeah.
we were carrying the water. But
Yeah.
conceivably, the water is provided by the input from the town, you know, I mean, that's what
I
so
mean,
this is a working group, you know? So I think what she's saying is right. It's not gonna be just fill it with members of each of these committees, so to
Yep.
speak.
Yep.
It's gotta be more like who's willing to help us get the work done that needs to be done. So, I mean, as you guys know, how many meetings have we had, David, since we started this?
Yeah, so it's certainly a large commitment. in terms
It
of-
is.
yeah,
And so
Yeah.
that's why I was thinking, like, I'm kind of with Celia on the mix of you know, send an email, have the explanation of what a master plan is, here are the next 5 chapters. Here's the commitment potential, if you wanna be on a task force, but ideally, we'd be looking for your participation as a committee commission member. And would you be interested, you know, just kind of give them that
It's
thought
probably,
process.
But you also have to recognize these guys all have heritage and they all have their own RSAs and they have their own, you know, they have their
Commitments.
direction and their.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
like
that's what they
safety,
should
so-
bring in for
Yeah,
that,
that's
though.
their,
That's what they're
Exactly.
gonna bring in and be able to share. You know,
Exactly,
yeah.
what the Enfield has or whatever.
Another
You know.
reality to consider too, David, is, are we gonna take a little break? Because we won't know if we have the money to. do
yeah, I mean,
until March.
we're gonna have to take a break until March or whenever town meeting actually.
Town manager has agreed to put it on the warrant.
So we have
Um,
time.
I think select board is supportive too.
Yeah,
I think the request would be also to use fund balance.
Yeah.
Which is excess money from, money that wasn't spent in previous years'
Yeah.
budgets. And I think that the thinking there is that we haven't done it in 30 years, so we've saved money, some, one way or the
yeah,
other.
Yeah.
30 years long, so that some of that money can be spent.
And do you have to do the same, like with Brandy? Would we be able,
That's the next question I was gonna ask.
yeah, say, do we have to RFP and look for someone again, or can we say, shoot,
I would
started
say
this?
you'd wanna stay right with her
Yeah,
if she'd have you, but.
I, you
I
know,
don't know if there's a rule, but
I have yet to actually sit down and start looking at this grant application. But, the New Hampshire Housing Authority, is that what they're called? I reached out to them and I said, you know, we've just finished our first 5 chapters of the master plan, which includes housing. But I think I can make a case that many, if not all, of our next 5 chapters have some impact on housing, and would you consider that? And they said, yes. So I figured, you know, I figured with that answer, it's worthwhile, spending some time over the next month or so and writing a grant.
I mean, if we wanna mirror basically what we did this time with those groups. Mid-March, let's say we get some money and start organizing. Or talking before town meeting. Gotta be ready to rock and roll come May to June for markets and then, you know, intro and all that jazz, but. Yeah, I think just kind of checking numbers and interest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be the first step, is check the numbers and interest. And to your point, and I guess Phil's probably the only one that would remember this. When we first started talking about doing a master plan in the planning board, we spent probably 2 or 3 months trying to decide what we wanted it to look like. And then we decided that there would be an overlap of, what was it, 3 of us from the planning board?
Right.
That were put onto this board, so that there would be some continuity of what the planning board actually thought they wanted. And I would suggest that, you know, as many of us as possible, we can afford to make the time commitment, and I think it would be quite a lot less. Stay on, and we bring on, people from these various committees, as subject experts, and if they have the time to commit to our group, that's, we ask them to do that as well.
I mean, I just think for continuity, for, you know, it almost equals the same because we have existing committees, commissions.
Yeah.
For those topics that. It kind of helps add that same thing. And like I said, you might have people who want to make the time for this and have more of an interest in those topics than the first 5.
I'd like to add one word here. can't really plan for your heritage,
No.
but you can plan for
Preservation, yeah.
preservation.
I can tell you right now, one name that might be interested with that topic in mind, but. Being an MVP.
Who?
Linda Jones,
Oh,
and she sits on MVP, Mascoma Valley Preservation,
mm-hmm.
but.
Maybe he should be a planning board rep next time.
But like I said, I mean, yeah, I just,
Maybe I'm getting ahead, but are there chapters after these 5 that you see?
I don't think there's anything major,
Nothing burning.
nothing burning. I mean, you know, at some point, the state says that we should have a gravel pit and excavation chapter in our master plan. Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't.
Okay, just curious.
But you know,
Nothing comes to mind.
I mean, we're hitting the big stuff. And, you know, you could probably come up with 20 different chapters. I think I've seen a list of things that, you know, other towns and cities in the state have done. But I don't think all of them necessarily apply to a town like Enfield because of our size, our position in the state, whatever.
and I have those.
If you want to suggest more chapters.
No, I was just curious what
Okay.
what you were thinking.
So, is anybody, has anybody in this room thought about continuing or whether they want to rotate off?
Sorry about rotating,
Okay,
so I
Yeah.
jump back to the preparation.
I mean, so did I, but I figured that because I'm on the planning board, you'd really want me to stay, and if so, that's fine.
I'm thinking about continuing because there's a couple of subjects up there that I've got quite a bit of interest in. Financially and otherwise.
one of them would be energy, huh?
Yes. I've got a lot of solar arrays and there's a lot of consternation on my part as far as this town not wanting to build more solar. Gotta fix that problem.
I agree with
That's why I got off the energy committee and got on the planning board because I knew the planning board had the power to do it.
you. Mhm.
Energy committee, we spent 2 years trying to get rid of streetlights, now we got rid of one.
And how much did that cost the town?
Each streetlight costs $200 a year.
No, I mean to get rid of it.
Oh, to get rid of the streetlight?
Yeah,
There was a fee for that too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And that was in the thousands, if I remember.
Yeah.
So anyhow, Phil wants to stay, Brad wants to stay. I'm kind of maybe yes, maybe no.
I'd like to really see a schedule. I think every other week schedule is a little much for me after 2 years. almost.
I think that's what we're all feeling that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Right, and it's not like you just come to the meeting.
Right.
There was a lot, in the beginning, there was a lot of additional meetings in between. I
right.
mean, I was
Yeah.
on the phone with Rob a lot, I was on the phone with Eric all the time, so. Whoever, if anybody volunteers to be on this plans, we gotta be honest with them, it's a ton,
it's a lot of work.
it's a ton of time and, you know.
And I think the big thing, because we have these groups, is that we're going to be asking them for data. and
Data.
Facts.
a lot of
And
data.
they have the ability, but for something, what I will say is like for recreation, it's not gonna be your commission, it's gonna be our employee who's gotta pull it. So Kevin's gonna have to pull data because the commission
Mhm.
does not have access to that. I just said to Rob too, 2 of those we have, employees, not just commissions and committees for. So, which is kind of nice.
But,
No.
but,
Well, you should have people though that'd be interested, like yourself in recreation.
Oh, yeah, that's
You know.
why I would be, there's one person I can think of as specifically on Recreation Commission. It would be a time thing, how much time, but I could see them being interested in probably at least the bottom 2, if not
Yeah.
energy as well.
It's major.
So, I mean, and maybe more, I don't know, but, that's why I was just thinking, maybe it'd be similar to the planning board, since they might kind of offer that continuity in the flow and maybe they look and get involved.
One thing I was gonna bring up for you, I have talked to Brandy briefly about whether she's
Yeah,
available to continue. And she's very busy, as you probably, yes, I mean, she's jumping off our meetings to go to other meetings. She did tell me some good news, and that is that her, I don't know if it's a husband or she calls him a partner. His name is Rod, and he was, up until just recently, the town manager in Norwich. But before that, he was the planner in Norwich.
Oh, wow.
And I got to know him pretty well through stuff that we did together. We like brown bag lunches at the planning commission and those kind of things.
and before that, he was the planner in Brattleboro.
Yes. Well, he, after the whole thing blew up in Norwich, and he's no longer their town manager, he's now going to work with Brandy. So it's gonna be a two-person shop instead of a one-person shop. I think it's really cool. So he may be available to work with us. You guys will have to meet him too, but my thinking is that I'd like to stay with Brandy so that
The continuity
Yeah,
is
the
really,
It'd be great,
sort of a similar voice through the whole thing.
yeah,
If we go and
and
start
writing.
fresh. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So she sort of indicated that perhaps with him on board, helping her with other stuff, that she might be able to do it.
mhm,
So it's gonna be a question for you guys.
yeah,
The planning board.
Yeah.
To see how to proceed.
mhm.
But I do
And-
agree, I think with what we've learned, it's not gonna be as much work to do these chapters as it was to do the first 5.
You're being recorded, because I'll shove it in your face.
You know, what we've
We
got to
don't need to do
do,
another survey for the whole town, for instance. I don't think we do. Cause there was recreation aspects we talked about
Yeah,
in the
but
first
I
survey.
bet you we end up doing it because
I-
it was so good to be able to fall back on that.
yeah, I'm sure we're gonna be doing
But there's still data.
more
But
in
yeah,
depth.
100%.
for some of it.
You
But I
know,
bet you can't.
these groups are gonna have to go out and do their own public involvement. And we have to impress upon them that this is the public's view of what should happen, and you need the data to back it up. So however you get that data, whether it's at the farmer's market, we'll have money for surveys, we'll have money for direct mail, whatever. I think I threw out to Ed the figure of 5,000 a chapter. And I think that's what?
25,000.
I would think that'd be hard to do. I'm thinking about Terrijan, conservation now. Thinking about going to the farmer's market and you're gonna ask questions of what do you want for conservation? Is that what you're saying?
That's one part of it.
I mean,
It's
part of it's educating people what the Conservation Commission and the Heritage Preservation people do.
It's a
And-
combo.
Hmm,
It's a combo.
yeah,
I mean, and that's where I was kind of saying, we don't have a lot of time. Because you probably should have time to put some questions together. For the farmers markets, depending on who's going first and when, and then. Yeah, making sure you have knowledge of. Who, what. And that's the other reason for having representatives from there, because.
yeah.
If we don't have anyone, then
It's hard.
it's a guess kind of.
I mean,
But it's also just to talk to people and get feedback.
Yeah.
Have them, I think we had sticky notes there most of the time or.
yeah, I mean, we stumbled around a little bit at the beginning
Yes, we did. And I
and
think we can probably avoid a lot of that.
we can because we've done it. It's different subject matter. What?
That's my point.
Yeah.
You were recorded.
Second time around is a lot easier because we've got a model that the town can follow. And we have a, 60 or 70 page town plan. And we say, your chapters have to look like the first 5 chapters.
Right.
Yeah, the feel, the look,
The
the
field, the look.
level
and-
of detail.
And, our consultant, our planning
Yep.
professional will do a lot of the technical work.
Yep.
And he or she will you know, we'll keep it in the same style and feel, which are things that the planning board discussed. I don't want to say ad nauseum, but we did go over a lot of different plans back in the first 3 or 4 months of our discussions. And we looked and we said, well, this one looks good, this one we don't like. We like this element from Plainfield and that element from New London or whatever it happened to be. And that's how we developed our vision of what we wanted to do for the town. Just to give you some background. And, you know, we've established that, and I'd like to think that it's gonna be well accepted. And I'd like to think that we can, get the next group to essentially just expand on the work that we've done.
Do you know Lindsay's feelings in terms of, whether?
I don't. I know she's into it, but I also know that she's getting a couple of businesses off the ground with.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much time she has to devote to it. I'm hoping that she will be able to continue, because I'd like to see her sitting in the chair or co-chair seat this time. I was hoping she'd be here today, so we could have that discussion, but I'll have to reach out to her. On a slightly related, I mean, anybody have any more thoughts on how we,
Did we hear from Ashley?
we didn't, Ashley's been silent. Anything to say?
No, I think that Bridget's point about the interests is a good one, and I think Celia made that point as well, like having some crossover there and that there are interests, but it is about getting town feedback. That's important to highlight.
One of the things that I didn't put on the agenda, we kind of have been talking about this for as long as we've been in existence. One of the steps, one of the final steps is kind of shopping our draft plan around to the select board. And I don't know if it matters whether we do that before we take it to the planning board or after or what, but I think it should be before the public hearing at some point.
Why not at the same time we release it to the planning board? Is there a problem doing that?
Releasing it, I have no problem, but I think there should be a formal presentation to the select board. And I mean, you know, releasing it to them so that they have an opportunity to review it, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we can do that. I don't have a problem.
But I agree with you, that would make it, that'd be a good idea to do a formal presentation.
Yeah, so I don't know when the select board,
What if you? Does it have to be before or after you guys?
before or after the planning board. I don't know that it makes a difference. I think it should be before the formal hearing before the planning board.
And you said you're gonna try to make the formal hearing on the 28th. Possible brief discussion
Brian.
on the 14th.
Possible.
Because I'm just looking at their schedule, so they meet on the 5th and the 19th of December, which is kind of in the middle of all
Well-
the things you guys are doing.
And if Brandy has something to release Wednesday, that will give the select board, and there's still only 3 of them. That will give them 2 days, 4 days to look it over, 2 of which are weekend days,
If you were to do, well,
if we were to do it on the 5th.
it's probably too late to, not quite.
What,
It might be too late depending on when the date is to get it onto the agenda for the 5th meeting.
but sequence wise, shouldn't it go to the planning board first?
Well, that's what I was wondering, if you guys had a brief conversation on the 14th and it went,
Maybe-
and it was presented on the 19th, select board, at least the planning board had warning. and maybe briefly discuss it, if there's time. And that way you can present to the select board, who will then know that the following week it is going to planning board for formal.
I think you sold me on that. Anybody?
I don't think the planning board is gonna have that big of an issue. We've been briefing them every.
Yeah.
I don't think they are either.
I mean, I think it's
I
gonna be
don't think
pretty
the
much, hey,
selectmen
this
need,
looks great.
if you look who the selectmen are,
Yeah.
it's not gonna be.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, cause Kate's already gonna have it. Cause of
What?
planning. I said
Kate's
Kate
already-
will already have seen
She's had
the
all,
planning
she's had
stuff.
all the background.
Yeah.
that he's
And
on.
Eric
Yeah.
must have it.
Eric's on this committee.
Eric's on this committee.
Well, he's got that part, right. So I mean, as far as them seeing it, Kate's already seen it thus far, through planning stuff.
I'm sure Eric.
I'm sure he has.
I would assume he would look.
Actually, I talked to him, on the voting when I was there. And, he was very positive about what he's seen by way of the draft.
David, would you like me to get you on the agenda of the select board for the 19th?
I think that's what people are saying.
And that way it gives a lot of time,
That way it'll
a
give
few
them,
weeks to announce it.
that way they have no
public.
excuse for not having read it. 'Cause there's a lot of time.
Yeah, and I think, I mean,
And it gives community.
you're not
time.
asking for their approval. You're sharing with them
Correct.
We're just presenting
all
it
the
to
work
them.
that you've done
Mm-hmm,
and the final product
mm-hmm.
and having a discussion. And I think it would be great to talk here too, to kind of brief them
Going
on
forward,
what our
yeah.
steps are.
Yeah,
Because we're fairly certain that they will support putting that on the warrant for next town meeting
mm-hmm.
to spend the additional money. So I think I think you're doing a good thing. It's a good political move to go to them and just have a conversation.
Yeah, question, is, Ed planning on a separate warrant article or just rolling the 25K into
No, it would
the
be,
budget?
it would be its own thing. And I think I told them that you had presented the first time you got approved. So you may be roped in again for that as well. I think it's gonna be its own item on the,
Does it have to be?
it doesn't, but I think it should be. Doesn't have to be, but it should be.
Give me your reasoning.
Well, it's fairly large expenditure, one-time expenditure, typically.
It's $25,000. That's nothing. In a what, $6 million budget?
You're absolutely right, but don't forget, I mean, people will say, $25,000, man, that's half of my salary, that's what people are gonna say,
Yeah.
right? So you gotta, again, this is a political move.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if I was your selectman and I was a selectman, it would be its own warrant article again to see if the town supports it. If the town doesn't support it, our job is done. We're done here, right? I mean,
Yeah, we gotta put it off until we get the money.
unless you wanna write it volunteers, I mean, we can do that too. There's still gonna be expenses to be incurred.
Yeah, I
So
mean, at
my
one,
thinking is
I don't think you
it
can
got
add
widespread,
expenses. Oh, for
support first time around, right? It wasn't even
yeah,
And
close.
I think that on that 19th, we
In the
somehow
reality,
share so that community members have an opportunity to be aware that that's gonna be presented.
yes.
That the presentation is happening, so that they can attend too. And the likelihood people might,
So,
and that way they could be more informed.
and back to fund balance. You guys understand what fund balance is,
Yeah.
right? Fund balance is, if we don't spend what we budgeted for this year, it gets returned to fund balance.
Mhm.
We've already collected the money
mm-hmm,
through taxes. So that difference is sort of becoming a slush fund, not slush fund, rainy day fund, is better
yeah,
word for it. We have a lot of money that's gone into fund balance in the last year or two because of COVID.
mm-hmm,
Because we got tons of money from feds to help us incur any expenses that we had from COVID.
Does that get returned to the taxpayers?
It's in this undesignated fund that is called fund balance. And now the state of New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration has a target range they want all towns to be within. And so we've done a good job. Actually, for years, we were actually doing a poor job and we had spent a lot of our fund balance and we didn't have it. The fund balance of your town is very important because it is a rainy day fund. And it also becomes money that you can leverage for paying your bills until, I mean, we don't have approval for
Cash
anything.
flow.
Yeah.
Right, we don't have approval until, March town meeting to actually spend stuff. We're just sort of
Right.
continuing resolution, so to speak.
So the first time we asked for 35 and got approved, right?
Yeah.
35,000. This
Yeah.
time's 25.
And they're gonna see the product of what they, I mean, we'll have it ready for them. It'll be like, hey, here's what you got for your 35,000. Not even saying we'll hit 35,000. We still have money left from 35,000.
That's good.
So we may return some money there into the fund balance from the first go around. But, I think that I think the residents I think they'll support it. And I think it will be, it's up to the
Especially
selectmen
if you have it at
what
the-
they want to do, but I think
Yeah.
it will be its own warrant article. He won't put that in the budget, especially for a one-time expense, it's not an annual expense.
And
We were
that's-
talking about like, we're actually looking at software for, permitting. To do building permits and land use permits, so we can do them electronically, online and everything. And at first Ed was like, well, we should do that with fund balance, and it's like, no, that's actually an annual expense, and we would actually have to pay for the service every year. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, that should be in the budget, so that's something that goes in the budget. As annual expense, but the one-time expense. is definitely-
Okay, at one time, we were talking about, an annual plan update expense. So
Yep.
will that roll in the following budget cycle after next year?
Yeah, from here on out, if you wanted to beef up the planning and zoning budget. Or have its own separate section of the budget
Mhm.
to continue on. Like, that's what I always thought we should do, and it happened with assessing. Used to be the town would do a townwide reassessment once every 10 years. And most towns have sort of realized, it's
That
not a
doesn't
good way to
work.
do it. It's actually better if you sort of stand on top of it all the time.
Mhm.
Because people see that huge change, and well, we're working on 2008 numbers, it's like, no, this is crazy. So it's much better to sort of keep it current. I think there'd be support for that too. I think in the future, if you said $5,000 a year extra on the planning department's budget
Mhm.
for continuous planning, or whatever you want to call it, that would probably be wise, but
I think that would come out of.
it's still catching up from 30 years. I mean,
I
right?
think that would come
Yeah.
up from a strategic standpoint. Too, right?
Yeah, we need some vignettes too on return on investment. What is this plan gonna result?
Generate, turn a
Yeah.
great,
Generate in terms
Yeah.
of grants.
good point.
Yeah.
And then we make that known to the community saying, hey, because we now have this nice plan, we're getting all these calls from all these companies or.
Yeah.
we're getting-
Right. We're
getting
eligible
people
for,
interested in moving here.
Yeah.
Things like that.
yeah,
Yes.
eligible
And,
for
and
X.
that's what that 5,000 can do is track some of those return.
Mhm.
investments.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean, my suggestion would be if that's the request is to put it on the 19th. I would probably send something out. Post whatever listserv / all the ways people get information. That the presentation is going to happen at that select board meeting, so community members can get themselves over there. And
Well,
just start building some support hopefully too, so that when March comes, it's a
Right.
pretty easy job to say.
Yeah,
You've seen it. Here it is. I mean, we'll have put it out before then anyways.
okay,
I will work with Lisa to get you on the agenda for the 19th. Anybody else that wants to come, I'm pointing at him because he's always been willing. He's been
He's the man.
he's like the little league coach.
That's right.
I'd be happy to attend.
I say I'm
I might,
frequently
I'll see, I
in
might.
attendance.
You've been voluntold.
you've been
That's the word.
volunteered and,
Electronically. in attendance.
yeah. Thanks.
Yep.
So I think maybe when we get the PDF from Brandy,
Sharing it with planning board.
share it with the planning
Master
board, but I think there needs to be some sort of like a cover letter to the select board that kind of explains what we've been talking about here for the last 5 or 10
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to work on that if you don't have the
That'd be
time.
great. They have, as you probably know, they have already been, we've shared
Yes,
draft copies with
Yes,
them, so
yes.
they have seen it.
yes, I mean, that's, you know,
This is
that,
sort of official.
that's, a
Yeah.
that's a given, but this is sort of
It's getting
the,
closer, yeah.
you know, all of those drafts were the rehearsals.
Yeah.
And this is the performance coming up, and we should tell them that this is the final dog and pony show, basically. On the 19th, and, okay.
Excellent.
Anybody have anything else they would like to discuss this evening? Anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right.
You guys know each other.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor of adjourning, say aye. Opposed, abstentions, we are adjourned at 7:27. Yay, I figured this was gonna go to 8.